since you're not reading the letters and the refusals that we've already sent you, I will say it to you directly, Mr. Jesus Osete at the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Again, sir, pound sand.
And welcome back to Square Off. That was Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes delivering a social media smackdown to a Department of Justice official who's demanding Arizona's voter rolls. Fontes has refused to hand them over and now joins more than 20 other states the DOJ is suing to get the rolls. Yvonne Wingett Sanchez is a Phoenix-based staff writer for The Atlantic and has provided groundbreaking coverage of Arizona's elections for several years. Welcome back to Square Off and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So I now identify you as a staff writer for The Atlantic. You've had a little change of workplace recently. Just bring folks up to date. Lots of folks have followed your coverage for years. So bring them up to date on how you got there, where you came from, and what you're doing, what your assignment is.
So it's really wide open. It's pursuing really good stories that help bring home to Americans how Trump's policies are playing out in America. What does that look like? What do threats to democracy, democratic institutions from Arizona to Oklahoma to Florida, what does that look like around the country? And really trying to illustrate the human toll, continuing the narrative sort of storytelling that I did for so long at the Washington Post and before that, the Arizona Republic.
So based in Phoenix, but covering the country.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Good for you. Well, let's come back to the old home here. Let's turn to Secretary of State Adrian Fontes. Why are he and other states refusing to hand over what's being called these redacted voter rolls?
There is deep concern, not just by the Arizona Secretary of State's office, county election officials across the country, and here in Arizona, about what the Trump administration, the Department of Justice may be doing or may intend to do with this sort of sensitive information. That could include information like social security numbers, like driver's licenses, whether or not individuals are receiving government-backed benefits, for example. And there's a lot of mistrust among Republicans and Democrats about what the Trump administration could do with this data. And the explanations as to why the Department of Justice wants this data sort of have shifted over time and in conversations with election officials around the country since really last spring. Just a lot of trepidation about what they may do.
And I want to pull out one point to make clear. This is bipartisan. It's not going after Democratic states. You have Republican states rejecting this as well.
That's right. That's
Correct.
accurate. Yeah.
And so they have that explanation. So nobody really knows what they want to do with it. But they do claim, the Justice Department does claim a right to have this. And I guess, is that what's going to be settled in court?
That's what the courts will end up deciding. What we have seen over the past year is an attempt by the federal government to test the limits of the authority that it may wield over elections around the country. As we know, elections are run by states and local jurisdictions, and Fontes and other election officials are citing all sorts of privacy laws that could come into play here. They are warning that the administration is not necessarily to be trusted, and that they don't trust the administration to properly handle the information of Americans. There are some who will privately tell you that this could lead to attempts to try to arrest or detain Americans, that they could, I think Fontes has said, hunt down people who the administration may suspect may not be here legally.
So part of the illegal immigration enforcement.
That's accurate.
This might become
that is the concern.
This might become part of that.
And to be clear, the Justice Department has not given any indication that that's what they intend to do with it. They have said that this is about ensuring the voter rolls are accurate. And the context of this fight over the voter rolls and over so much of these data fields is also rooted in the 2020 election and the aftermath of that election.
And so let's telescope out, because now you have a Trump administration from the president on down that is staffed by election deniers, people who believe still the 2020 election was rigged. How could that play out over the next several months leading into November?
That's one of the big concerns, right? I mean, Trump and his allies have consistently said that there were widespread patterns of dead people voting, of illegal immigrants voting. All of those things have been found to be disproven. Courts have upheld the election results. We now have an administration that is not just saying these things at campaign rallies and on the sidelines. They are in key positions of power to wield their influence against states and to try to pressure states to give them information that could potentially bolster their claims, or they may argue could bolster their claims. The big fear is that they compile this treasure trove of information, and then should they not like the results of upcoming elections, of future elections, they try to use this information in courts of laws or to just further a public narrative that election results are not to be trusted or are not legitimate.
Something to watch closely. We will be following your reporting. I want to let folks know that The Atlantic is hosting an Atlantic Across America event in Phoenix this coming week. Yvonne will be interviewing Adrian Fontes for that. Former Ambassador and Senator Jeff Flake will also be interviewed in a separate segment. The event is at capacity, unfortunately, but you can watch it on The Atlantic's website on Wednesday, January 14th. Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
And that's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.
Continue with us on 12 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.